on. And I'm also going to stop my video. And folks, I want to remind you that if you have questions, please put them into the chat box. I will monitor those questions. And at the end of Dr. Babu's talk, we will have a little Q&A before we go into David Middleton, who is our second speaker. So thank you again, and I'm gonna stop my video and stop my speaker. And thank you, Dr. Babu.
Thank you, Tricia. Good morning, you all. Thank you very much for inviting the Lincoln University Hemp Institute for this workshop. And what we'll be giving here is kind of an idea about it, why we are in hemp, and what we did last year and what we're planning to do the year ahead. So let me share my slide sets.
You just click on that, and there you go. The swap, yes, yeah, do that.
Okay.
Swap, yeah, and see if it. There you go. Thank you.
Thanks for that technical glitch. Sorry about that. Okay. Well, I'll be giving kind of an upshot. I mean, a summary of what we did and why hemp, and what we did, and what we are planning for next year, and what's our capability here at Lincoln. So I'll skip the first couple of slides and introduction slides. We all know that the plants below 0.3%, that's what we are talking about here, 3% of THC as the industrial hemp. So we all know that it was the third largest crop in our country. And there's a saying in 1600s, I mean, early 1600s, they saying that if you're a farmer, you should grow hemp, otherwise you're arrested. Later it changed. So it shows that early 1600, the varieties are introduced here in the United States. And by 1800s, it became the largest crop in the country. But you can see, Missouri, we started planting hemp in 1800, late 1835. Then we were #2 in the country in the hemp fiber production when compared to Kentucky. So this is an old map, shows the hemp production areas in 1800 till 1850 and up to mid 1900s, how the hemp is produced in the country. You can see the extreme southeastern and Texas areas are not included, and also the extreme west down to California area is not included at the time. But now you look at the situation that I'm sorry about that. I did some graphics on the real map. So the two states, South Dakota and New Hampshire, got licensed recently in this year. That's why I put a new squares in this map. So now almost 48 states are they legalized the hemp production, licensed hemp production in the country. And you can see almost about close to 500,000 acres planted 2020, or projected to plant 2020. And we don't know exactly how much they planted and harvested now. But when you look at the year before, it was 9% lesser than the year 2019. When you look at the state of Missouri, and this is from a recent article from Chris Chen, our director of Missouri Department of Ag. They say that we have about 206 producers licensed in Missouri and 77 seeds and propagule permit, and almost about close to about 800 acres were planted in 2020 in Missouri. So why we are planning, why we are focusing on this, why we are reintroducing the plant, economics. So it will add to our state economy and national economy in a big way. Like we look at the percentage of import, so it's about close to about 100 million or 75 million worth of import in 2019. So we think that by 2025, close to 25 billion revenue we can get from hemp, especially on the major hemp-based products. So you can see in this cartoon, this graph, projected how much it costs for each product. So why it is more economically important? Because look at the seed composition of this, the composition of this plant, especially seed and other economically important compositions. Since I was working with the soybean for the last 15 years, and we focus on soybean because it's the best oil crop plus best meal crop. So with an 18% oil and about 30 to 40% protein. But look at this plant. The fiber, I mean, this got about 38% oil and about close to 30% protein. So this well-balanced plant have a lot of potential. Apart from cannabinoids, you can use it for feed industry or vegetable oil industry, that kind of stuff. So if we look at the fiber content, close to about 27% dietary fiber in this plant. Also, we have a 22% non-digestible fiber. So this constitutes towards the fiber industry side. And more than 100 cannabinoids are studied in detail in hemp. So I put, to justify the plant characteristics, since I worked in soybean, I put a soybean planting map here. You can see the maturity group from north of the country to the south of the country, north to south. So the maturity group, like the cold region soybeans are kind of a 0 to 1 to 2 maturity group. So here we grow 3 and 4, and if we go down, people grow 5, 6, 7 maturity group. The same way with hemp. So hemp is very highly photoperiodic. So the photoperiod is very crucial. So we have to look at specific hemp variety for the specific growing region. Back to the plant, there's a kind of you all know that what is the difference between cannabis sativa and cannabis indica. And cannabis rudra is kind of a very wild progenitor of this species. So this will be a good source for breeding for value-added traits. So what we have, is there any hemp genetic resource in our germplasm collection with the United States Department of Ag, USDA? Like other crops like corn, soybean, beans, or any other plants, we have germplasm collected from all over the world. But in the case of hemp, we have none. Due to the federal rules, we burned all of our germplasm collection by 1970s. So now we are in the process of building up the germplasm bank for hemp. This resource is highly essential for breeding and variety development of industrial hemp, either in the cannabinoid or fiber or seed or dwell or triple varieties. This is kind of this genetic resource is very much needed. Genomic resources. What we know about the genome, we know the human genome sequence from 2000 to 2010. Now also people are sequencing human genome to find out what gene is making mutation or what gene is making or cause of cancer or a disease or how we can improve that. The same way, we need to know the genomes of the crops we are working with. In soybean, for the last 15 years, we developed several genomes. That's why we can pinpoint specific trait and breed for that specific trait in a very fast way to develop new varieties. So we have to approach this, we have to put the same approach for hemp. So at present, we have only a limited number of genomes available for hemp. So with all these premises, what are our production challenges? We have to re-establish this agricultural supply chains. We need to breed varieties for each growing region and for each trait. We need to get new equipment, or we have to modernize that processing and manufacturing facilities what we had before, and we are looking for the new market opportunities. We at the Lincoln University, we mainly focus on breeding varieties with modern attributes. So in summary, what we need, Missouri need a sustainability model on superior genetics. So without that, we can't, Missouri farmers or Missouri hemp industry cannot go further. So with all this in our mind, we at the Lincoln University, we discussed and we formed a hemp institute in the later part of the 2019. So we got several faculties involved in this hemp institute, both research, education, and extension faculties are involved in the institute. So our major goal is, long-term goal is to establish a nationally recognized hemp program and to give that knowledge to growers and process and generate or help build the next generation hemp growers and hemp experts. So that's our major goal. So we have some objectives, preliminary objectives. That the first objective is that, like any other crop introduction or reintroduction to the state, we have to find out the specific genetics. So that's why we are doing a variety screening. Then we have to develop best management practices. We don't know how we can grow it. We need more nitrogen or phosphorus or more weed or less weed, how we can manage it. Then establish a testing facility. You might have heard yesterday from Alan that we don't have any testing facility in the state of Missouri. So we are in the process of establishing a testing facility. And like David is doing, like that, he is the coordinator of our extension coordinator for the hemp program. And we have to do a lot of workshops and seminars. We have to educate the people and educate the law enforcement and educate the system towards the best practices and to establish a economically viable industry in the state of Missouri. So we are partnering with several institutions at present, and we're working with the University of Missouri too on some aspects. And also we're working with the Missouri Department of Ag and the USDA on the germplasm rebuilding germplasm collections. So one of the main target, even though our focus, initial focus is on the variety trial and the information processing, we are looking at the national problem of the plants getting hot. So yesterday, Alan was mentioning about how many farmers got this problem, or 9 to 10% of, or more than 10% of the field got hot. That means the THC is getting higher. So we are investigating whether is it because of the genetics, or is it because of an environmental problem, or is it a genetic environmental interaction. So my team in the lab is working on its genetic and genetic environment interactions. What we know that we know what genes are responsible for making THC. So we are following the genes to find out how it is happening. And hopefully we can have some varieties with less THC or zero THC. So what are our breeding targets? So as I mentioned, this is a very high oil rich and protein rich crop. So we are looking at high yielding varieties with different levels of fatty acids, because this plant or this seed or oil is higher in omega-3. So omega-3, you know that, for heart healthy and a lot of benefits. So we're looking for those targets, seed and oil traits, as one of the breeding targets. And another target is the fiber traits and the bioenergy traits. We all know that this plant is known for carbon sequestration, higher in fiber, and also it's always good for phytoremediations. So we have to look at those traits. So at Lincoln, we are focusing some of the major fiber and bioenergy traits in breeding. Obviously, the other traits we're looking are the phytocannabinoids. So we all know that CBD is in the market now. So people are looking for new cannabinoids like CBG, CBN, or another CBX. So different THCA, a combination. So we are looking for those value-added traits in our breeding pipelines. So major traits are seed and oil-related traits, selected fiber traits, and selected phytocannabinoid traits in our breeding pipeline. And obviously, we look into the agronomic traits too, because for the best plant performance, we need the plants that can grow on heavy soil or wet soil or in drought soil or in cold and heat and humidity. Or pest is another problem. So we have developed pest and disease resistant crops. So these agronomic traits will go along with other major and quality and economically important traits. So with all these things, to find out the real hemp growth in the state of Missouri, we started the variety screening last year, and we did 4 locations, and we have organic and non-organic. So you all know that the Lincoln University is only land grant system in the state of Missouri got a certified organic research farm. We got about 350 acres, plus we are going to get 150 acres certified soon. So close to about 500 acres of certified organic farm we have. So we grow cannabinoid, fiber, grain, and dual varieties. And we started minimum 4 replicates. In some cases, we end up 2, some cases none. And we use the randomized block design to collect the data. So LNT Busby Farm is our organic research farm at the Lincoln University. And we use these 5 varieties: Peacemaker, Blue Genius, Cherry Wine, Siskiyou, and Bubblegum. And you can see the plot here. This is one of the maturing plots you can see here. We planted 2 different planting dates. We planted early June and late in heat in summer. These 2, and just to see if there's any big difference in planting date. So we started, I mean, you know that this is the first time we started with a barren land. We burned the land with a thing, and we used different, what do you call, planting strategies and using dark plastic. We started from the seedling, and sorry about a little bit quick video, the slideshow here. So just what I show is that kind of different steps. We start from the switchgrass or grass field, and we burn the field, and we made the plots using black plastics. Then we grew the plants, seedlings in the lab or in the small control condition. And we grow the seedlings for about 3 to 4 weeks. Then after 3 to 4 weeks old seedlings, we planted. We planted everything in hand planted in the rows. So we have 3 feet apart from the plants and about 5 feet apart from the rows. That's what we did. And the plants we got. It was tough. We are doing it first time. We don't know anything about the hemp plant. It was tough for us, but we did good and fine. So we got a very good plant establishment, and we found out that some plants have problems, and some varieties, you can see some varieties are not genetically stable. And if you see early, and you can see this one of the plants, male, one of the variety, even though they say that 100% female, we got 50% male in that variety. That means it's not completely genetically stable at all. So, but it shows that we need genetically stable variety for the state of Missouri. So we got some lead from this organic trial. So we'll be continuing this lead this year. The same thing we did at the non-organic farm, that's called a Washington Carver Farm at Lincoln University. So see, look at it. We planted this later in August. So there we used white plastic. Then to see any big difference, but we couldn't see a big difference on white plastic. But it can help mitigating the heat problem. So we established a good crop at the non-organic farm too. So what it shows that if you have a good seedling and the right way of planting, you can establish any cannabinoid or hemp plants. But we have to pick the specific variety suitable for our dirt. So we have other location at the Truman State University. So we planted again in early June. We planted the same 5 varieties. You can see the early photos of that variety, and we took this photo in September last, October 1st. The plants kind of matured, ready to harvest. You can see here also. You can see some male plants of the variety 5 that bubblegum got. It's not genetically stable. So what next? The next is that you have to harvest the plant. We thought that planting is the difficult part of the hemp cultivation. No, it is the after planting, after harvest. So you have to find out a space for drying it. So this is one of our old sheep barn at the Carver Farm. We used to dry the plants. You can get the moisture content about 12 to 15% moisture content by drying. So we didn't use any other heater or any other thing, except we use this giant fans. A couple of the fans we do a couple of hours in a week. Other than that, we don't do anything about drying these varieties. So after drying, we collected these flowers, and the flowers and the leaf and the different plant parts are under investigation now for its cannabinoid and THC content. So we plan to collect a lot of data from this, like agronomic and physiological data, and some reproductive trait data, and also some biochemical trait data. We collected about 60% of this data, and we are in the process of analyzing the data. So as you all know that, as from Alan's talk yesterday, you should test your plants before harvest. So we collected David Middleton. I mean, he's one of our certified sampler. So we collected the samples before harvest, and the data, we are compiling the data, how much THC and how much CBD percentage. Now, hopefully in my next presentation somewhere, I can give a complete picture about the THC. So from some of the preliminary data shows that some plants we got a little bit more THC, like about 0.38 or 0.4. So majority, I think, is below our threshold. But let's see how the data comes up. So we collected all this data, and we will be the experiment in 2021 will be based on this data analysis. So all data will be publicly available soon through our website. So for example, I mean, we look at different phenotype data. Look at the leaf phenotype. These are from 4 varieties. So look at the leaf, how the leaves look like. It's kind of different. And same age, almost same age plants, and the leaf morphology is different. Stem morphology is different. Even the flower head morphology is different. You can see how the plants look like. And from this, we found that from the 5 varieties, 2 varieties did best in our field trial in all 4 locations. That is, one is Siskiyou Gold and the Peacemaker for the year 2020. But we want to find out that for the year 2021 too. And we will use this also for some breeding purpose. So what are for the cannabinoids? What is our preliminary observations? We found varietal difference in plant morphology traits including flowering time. And we found variation inside each variety, and like plant morphology, and that means it's not genetically stable. We definitely need to make a stable variety. And as mentioned, we found male population came along with it. And also Siskiyou Gold and Peacemaker performed well so far. So we have to complete the biochemical testing to make it as a final. What we found that we need more varieties with the best plant performances for the state of Missouri and Midwest. Another, we didn't see much pest or disease problem, but we have a resident pathologist, Dr. Patel, and resident IPM, Integrated Pest Management faculty, Dr. Clement Mensa. So they found some pests and they're studying its role and the management practices of those pests. But we didn't get much big disease this last year. So that's about our cannabinoid plants. So if you look at the fiber varieties and seed dual varieties, we planted 5 varieties of fiber and with 3 varieties of seeds and 2 varieties of dual. Dual means that is fiber and the seed or grain. All these varieties, most of these varieties are from Europe, some from Canada, and a couple of them only from the United States, Lanka and Altair, they developed in Ivory, they developed in here. Most of them from Europe. So you can see some of the plants going to about 5 to 6 feet tall. So field planting, for the fiber seeds, we have a 7-inch spacing, and grains, we have a 15-inch spacing. Seeding that's very crucial for any hemp planting. It should be, it should be 1/4 inch. I might have to take this 1/2 inch off. If you want to get a best crop of fiber and seed, you should plant 1/4 inch, no more than that, or no below that, no more than that. So we planted 2 planting dates. And the soil pH was 6.6 by 8. That's really good. And soil temperature was about 55 to 60. That's optimum. But so we are learning from our thing. Fiber plant growing. See, its lodging is one of the problem. Then later, what happens is that water logging was a problem. You can see the field. Fiber variety seeds grown up to 5 to 6 feet, but after rain in early August or something, we got heavy rain. Water stand there in the field, and you can see the field after about 2-3 weeks. We lost all best plots of fiber. See, fiber varieties. So we try to collect some data, but we collected some kind of about 20% to 30% data, and we couldn't collect a whole because of this bad field performance. So we learned a lot from this experiment. First of all, we found that we should grow the plant in much more denser, like close to cone, and also first of all, the land preparation. The land preparation is very crucial. You should make the land at minimum, plow the land minimum 12 to 15 inch deep, and pack the land like what we do for alfalfa, and plant the seeds 1/4 inch. That's the must. Otherwise, you won't get any good crop of fiber and seeds. Second one is early seedling vigor or establishment is very much needed for these varieties to come up. And we test the plot for nitrogen and phosphorus because this plant eats a lot of nitrogen, at least about 180 pounds per acre nitrogen is needed. Then also we found that you should have a minimum 50 pounds per acre seed density for fiber and 30 to 40 pounds per acre for the seed and dual varieties, for grain and dual varieties. So we found the varietal difference, and flowering time was different for these plants. And we found the second planting date in July. It was poor germination due to heat, and we lost entire plots because of the heat, because we planted at the 1/4 inch and we watered it. What happens is that the seeds got cooked because of the heat, because it's on the surface. So as I mentioned, the land preparation is the very crucial parameter for the best hemp fiber and the seed hemp crop. And planting date, you should plant like cone and complete your planting everything by May 1st week. So then you can get a good seedling establishment. And also, if you have a good early seedling establishment, you can take care of your weed problems too, and increase planting density. So we did from what we did here, from the preliminary observation, we found these 2 varieties are better and for fiber, and these 2 are kind of comparatively okay for seed, but we won't conclude that because our plots were not completed. Plots were not completed for data collection, but still we are doing some analysis with the some of the plants survived the flooding problem. But that's why this year we are intensively planting more varieties. So what I gave you, I gave a snapshot about the cannabinoid plants and fiber varieties and seed varieties. The major thing what we learned is the land preparation. Land preparation is very crucial for any of these hemp varieties growing in the field. And second one is the soil pH and soil nutrition. You should check your nitrogen and phosphorus of this any soil that we are growing, and also soil pH should be that range what I talked about, 6.5, 6.8 pH. And in the case of fiber and the seed varieties, the density, plant density will be a little bit higher than what we projected earlier. So with that in mind, we'll be continuing the field trial in 2020. Another project what we have to breed to get varieties for Missouri. So what are the good sources? You know that in 1800 we grew the plants here. There's still some plants are growing in some pockets in the state of Missouri. This is the map of invasive plants in the state of Missouri, published by the USDA. So you can see, and they consider industrial hemp, feral hemp as an invasive plant. You can see a lot of locations in the state of Missouri for witchweed. So what I did is that I traveled across the state and collected the witchweed from different locations. You can see how tall some plants are got about 14 feet tall. I have some behind my chair, some of the stock what I got from the feral hemp. So I collected about 70 types across the state, and we'll be using that. So we'll be using the selected ones for our breeding program. So we can get some of the traits from these plants to our desired varieties, because these plants are growing here for the last 150 years with cold and rain and heat and disease and all kind of stuff. So we can extract a lot of information from that. And also we are rebuilding the germplasm bank for the United States Department of Ag. So all these germplasm will go to that germplasm bank. At the same time, Lincoln University is maintaining a Midwest hemp germplasm bank in our Carver Farm seed storage facility. So we will keep all the varieties what we develop, and what are all the land races we are collecting from different parts of the world. I'm collaborating with some of the European germplasm centers to get some land races for the breeding prospects. So what in the future perspectives, we need a core collections of genetic and phenotypic diversity plants. That's why I just now mentioned I'm collecting this feral hemp from across the state, and also collecting the land race from different parts of the world to towards the towards breeding for your desired trait. And disease resistant, I heard from different farmers that, excuse me, disease resistant cultivars and varieties with the best plant performance needed for some, excuse me, some growing areas. Another issue is the sex. For the best cannabinoid producing varieties, farmers prefer to grow female plants. So you have to eliminate the male plants. If you have the male plants, what happens is all of your flowers get fertilized and you get seeds, and you won't get any flowers for your CBD or CBG or oil or smokable flowers, whatever it is. So you have to look at the sex genes and find out markers to identify sex gene earlier in the trait in the plant growth. So like in soybean, but we do the same breeding tactics. Just select those lines and pull out from the or greenhouse where we make the seedlings. Another thing is that we need more gene information about the how the genes are mutated, how the genes are functioning, and how we can use the genes for best breeding strategies. Either we use conventional breeding or genome-based breeding or marker breeding, or use some new techniques called gene editing technique that you can, if you want more CBG, look for the genes produce GBG and do some gene editing to look for getting more CBG in the plant. Above all, we need stable varieties. So I'll give you a glimpse of what we have in our Lincoln University facilities and capability. As I mentioned, we have a certified organic farm, and we have a research greenhouse only for hemp, and we have hoop houses also for hemp. And David is is an expert in this hoop houses and the greenhouses of the control condition growing of plants, along with the field growing plants. And we have expertise in genetics, molecular biology, breeding, animal science, and analytical chemistry. I'll come to that point soon. And some of the animal science faculties now trying to use hemp for animal feed studies. And Midwest germplasm bank is in progress. And like any mapping or breeding facility, like an MU, where I worked for the soybean, we had a soybean genotyping facility. The same way we have a soybean hemp genotyping facility in Lincoln, where you can look at the desirable traits in the plant and select for the breeding process. And we have an excellent extension team for working with the farmers and the law enforcement across the state. So as I mentioned that we are in the process of setting up a certified lab. We got quite most of the equipment, but due to the COVID situation, it got very much delayed. We were planned to get this by last September, but due to the COVID situation, we couldn't do anything. But at least we acquired these machines like LC mass spec, top of the line liquid chromatography mass spec. What it does that it profiles all the metabolites in the plant, including cannabinoids, THCs, and this the Hemp Analyzer. So we can use a routine analysis of all the 12 cannabinoids, including THCA and THC, like what Ellen was talking yesterday. And we have ICP OES that we can do all the metallic ions and also heavy metals kind of stuff. And also we can do the pesticide analysis, because all these are very much needed if you commercialize any hemp or hemp-related products or hemp, in the market. So we are setting up an ISO DEA. Hopefully by this planting season, we have this thing up and running. So you can get more information about us on this website, Lincoln Hemp Institute website, and you can see who are the players and what they do. And we are kind of expanding that with other collaborators. With all this thing, we have the acknowledgement to all the partners, Truman, Missouri State, University of Missouri, and Missouri Department of Ag. Alan and his team was so helpful for us doing upper administration in Missouri Department of Ag. Along with Lincoln University upper administration, our curators, they gave us permission to start this program early itself, and also put some money to work on this program. So thank you very much, and I'll be happy to take your questions.
Thank you, Dr. Babu. That was a very interesting and fascinating discussion about not only the history of hemp in Missouri, but also your research. So participants, we will open this up to your questions now before we move on to David Middleton. I don't see any in the chat right now, Dr. Babu, but I'm going to ask you a couple of them. What's your timeline for having an ISO certified DEA lab? Do you guys have a timeline on that yet?
So, I mean, we want to kind of, if it can tomorrow. Yes, ASAP, that's what we are planning. And our machines are here now. So,
okay.
And we were waiting for the Hemp Analyzer, and that's also will be coming this month. So then we will start the paperwork for the certification, because we got a new facility across the building where my lab is. So that's for the Plant Science Research Center. So we are establishing this one of the labs only for this ISO certification. Hopefully before our planting time. I mean, by the planting time we have that.
Okay. I found that the fascinating fact was that in the 1970s, they destroyed that germplasm. What were they thinking?
I mean, as you know that if you look at the history, like by 30s, kind of it's completely. I mean, it's kind of going down. So just because of this Narcotic Act or whatever it is, that legal term, so we cannot keep anything in our possession.
Yeah, I understand. So as a university employee, I understand.
So, I mean, you see in some of the old photographs what I shown that Dr. Dewey people, they are kind of pioneers of hemp breeding. So they made this, a lot of the Italian varieties crossed with some European varieties. So still some of the fiber varieties what we are seeing around here are from that pedigree. You can see.
Yeah.
So
right.
all that great works can completely destroy it that time, because they cannot keep it. So now we are kind of starting from the scratch.
Right.
So,
right.
but at the same time, some of the European germplasm bank, they keep all those lines. So, like Canada acquired that from the European germplasm bank, and then they started making breeding, and it's one of the biggest program in the state of in the country, Canada.
Lance asks, did you plant crops on sloping ground with natural drainage, or did you try no-till?
Yeah, no, we didn't try not to we till.
Yeah. And I think he was referring to that problem you had with the really, really wet laying.
You know, that's our mistake too. I mean, that because the history of Lincoln University, we grew mostly vegetable and very less soybean. See,
right.
So the things that those plots are good enough, and if you do, you know how you prepare for a vegetable plot, like kind of a 4 to 5 inch deep, and you do that thing, and a little bit water is okay. But we were kind of completely overlooked selecting the ground. So this year we are a little more careful getting a good well-drained, kind of a possibility for well-drained land. That's what we said.
Yeah, I learned from that last issue. Did you irrigate any of the
yes
plants?
We did irrigate it. We did irrigate it for the CBD plants. We used drip irrigation.
Drip irrigation. Okay.
So once the plant is established, like after flowering, I mean, like we didn't do a kind of a weekly once or something like that for about an hour. That's what we did. I mean, after flowering, we didn't do that much. It's only the earlier part, the early seedling establishment. We need a kind of a little bit good moist. After that, you don't need much moisture.
Right. Are there any plans for Lincoln University to do marijuana plant research?
Yes, we have. We have plans, and we are thinking about. We are discussing about the possibilities on the what do you call, on the health benefit side. Yeah, so developing like value-added trades. How we can do a combination of trades, like one of the best compounds from this plant, either marijuana or industrial hemp, is the terpenes. Some of the terpenes are kind of a highly medicinal, like very health. Some of the health promoting activities they have. So we can have a combination of those with some of the medical marijuana programs, supporting the medical marijuana program too. Yes, we are discussing about the possibilities of doing it, but it's not finalized. But the ISO, the certified lab, will be equipped to test marijuana too.
Right. If a grower wanted to contract you to do some tests on some of their hemp product, is that a possibility at this time?
I mean, we'll be happy to collaborate with. We are open to collaborate and also work with the potential farmers and the industry. Yes, but not now. But now we're kind of collaborating a couple of companies now to grow some of their genetics and see how it's working. Yes, and if there's a kind of a strong genetics or strong case, we will work. We can work on that one. And for that, we normally, like that for any universities, we have to go for that legal agreement with our legal counsel and the college. Then, yeah, as a researcher, we'll be happy to look at the different problems. And being a service lab, definitely the ISO certified lab, when it's established, we'll be happy to do service, test this products.
That's good information to share. And I did place a link on my daily email, my constant contact with everyone, to the LU Hemp Institute. So hopefully that'll work. And also, I just want to inform everyone that we are recording these and I'm saving them to YouTube. But when I first put the link in there, I made them all private, but I did not realize I had to give those of you who are participating permission. So I shared each of your emails with YouTube so that you have the ability now to go in and watch the recordings of yesterday's and today's and future programs. I was reminded, by the way, we raised our children in Iowa. And as you were in Northwest Iowa specifically, and as you were showing the map of the wild hemp that's growing, in all the different counties in the area in the US. Of course, there was ditchweed growing everywhere, in Iowa. And I'll never forget this because my husband, there were some little marijuana plants growing underneath one of our trees. And he says, "Oh, I think our daughter's friends planted those seeds there." And I said, no, that's not what happened. And what happened is the mourning doves, if you know that, they love hemp seed. That's what they eat. And so they were doing the planting of the marijuana, which is why it ended up under the trees, because as it passed through them, they were repopulating their areas with fresh hemp plants so that they would have a fresh harvest of seed for the future. I'll never forget that.
I have a request. Yeah, that's right. I mean, birds is another problem. The birds eat. I mean, birds comes to the field like anything to get this.
Oh yeah,
Seeds.
yeah, that's good stuff. The hemp seed is really, really good stuff for birds. They love that stuff.
When we put that for drying in one of the barns we didn't have any doors. I mean, you can see a lot of birds coming in and eating a lot of seeds inside and getting in. I have another request. I mean, I want to mention here is that this is a kind of a teamwork. I mean, all members of the Hemp Institute work very hard to get this preliminary data towards our next plan. Our next plan is that we are going to go a little bit more bigger plots and more varieties, like minimum 10 varieties from each to 8 locations. But that's what we're planning, 8 locations across the state to find out the genetic environmental interactions of these plants. So my request is that I know that we are sharing that, but it would be good if we can do the limited sharing, but we can share the knowledge about some of the data.
Yeah, and certainly when we obviously we've got some press coverage, and we can share that request as well, and make sure that we refer growers to you as one of the researchers who's wanting to work to build up the Missouri hemp industry. So happy to do that. Does anyone else have any questions? What we will do is, it is 1:26. At 1:30, we'll start David Middleton's presentation, and go ahead and post your questions in the chat. Let's thank Dr. Babu. I appreciate you very, very much for agreeing to present today. I thought it was very interesting and very informative. And we've got a couple other folks here that I'm just checking as we go, but whenever David would like to go ahead and take over the screen, we'll introduce you, David, and we'll go from there. I'll back up.
Yeah, thank you all. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Sure thing. And let's see. Just want to make sure everybody is muting. Okay. And to mute all of your microphones. Alan, did you have any questions? Anything that you wanted to comment on? Alan Freeman is here.
No, I don't at this time. My audio is not the best today, so I'm trying to keep up with what's going on. So thanks for asking.
All right, thank you. I just kind of try to monitor things, and I don't know who this one is. Who's 573-298-2454? Would you speak up and tell me who you are?
That's myself.
Oh, never mind. We'll hide that. So that's fine.
All right.
All right. Anybody else? Let's see. And let's see. I'm going to mute you. Okay, David. Welcome to David Middleton, who is our next speaker. I'm going to go ahead and say that David is part of the Lincoln University Hemp Institute, working the extension and outreach portion of the program. I've known David since basically I started with extension, and he's always up for something new and exciting. And I obviously today it's some tropical island. Hopefully that's where you are. But I think one of the things you're going to talk about, in addition to your outreach and research, is the law enforcement training for officers to receive continuing education about industrial hemp. So with that, and David is also our certified industrial hemp sampler. And I think we talked about that yesterday when Alan Freeman was talking, we might have a few questions for you, David. So with that, I am going to mute myself and I'm going to stop my video, and I think you are quite able to share your screen. So I'm going to let you do that. Thank you, David.
Okay. Make sure I'm getting it here right. Okay, where do I share my screen?
Bottom of that.
Okay, so at the bottom, press that green button to share your screen, and you just need
Oh,
to
there it
find-
is.
Yeah. Just making sure it's working out for you.
No, it's not coming across. My internet's not very good.
Now, you have, which one is it? The direct marketing? Is that the one you want to show?
No, I was just going to speak. I wasn't going to.
Okay.
I don't have a.
Okay. Then you don't need to worry about it. We can see you and hear you.
Okay.
Yeah, you can close all that. You just close all that and stop sharing your screen, and you're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me.
In fact, I'll hit. All you have to do is stop sharing. And this will stop the other screen sharing. So let's do that. Okay. All right.
All right. Am I there?
Speak away. And I will mute.
Okay. Well, thank you, Tricia, for inviting me here today. Yeah, once again, my name's David Middleton. I'm with the Lincoln Hemp Institute. I'm the Hemp Outreach Coordinator. I guess the first thing that I'll cover is our law enforcement training. And this came about because as I work with farmers, I want to make sure that when they're transporting or doing things, that law enforcement is aware of the rules and regulations that farmers have to protect them. And so we've done a couple of these trainings. They are 4 hours, and we're certified through POST, which is Peace Officer Safety Trainings, for 4 hours of continuing education. And all officers need to go through continuing education every year. So this works out great for them to include them in their programs throughout the year. We cover the history of hemp. I have Alan come in and we go over the rules and regulations of hemp production in Missouri. And then we just talk about a lot of general questions. You know, what do you need to have when you're transporting hemp? You know, your chain of custody, your license, these sort of things, that if an officer stops someone, we don't want people to end up in jail, because there has been some bad things happen across the US in times where there was actually a trucker moving a semi-load of hemp from Oregon to Montana and got stopped in Idaho at the scales and thrown in jail. We don't want that to be happening in our land right now. So it's very important to us for law enforcement to learn all the rules and regulations. You know, this is not marijuana. You can't tell any difference. So the paperwork is what's important for our farmers to have with them. This is offered free of charge to, we've done it with sheriff's departments. We've done it with drug task force. And so anybody that would want us to come in and do a training, we would be more than happy to do that. We just have to get it on our schedules and work with the departments that would want us to come in. Some of the observations I've had in this past year, because I am a hemp sampler, I got to be on a lot of farms and talk to lots of farmers. And so insects, corn earworm, that was a major problem that we saw in some fields. Some fields had absolutely none, but when you get into more of an agronomic community where there's lots of corn being grown, I saw some huge infestations where they were just totally devouring the buds. And so that's one of the areas that I'm looking at to find some ways that we can spray with OMRI products, which is basically the organic certified products, and maybe some other alternatives that we might look into in researching how we could take care of some of these insects. The other major problem that I've run into was aphids in greenhouses before the plants went out in the field. And that's pretty well easily controlled with some parasitic soaps and that sort of thing. Diseases, did not run into a whole lot of disease problems that I saw out there this year. There was one thing that I have not been able to figure out, and it was kind of a sudden death of a plant just in a row. Everybody around it was healthy. They get to about 2, maybe 3 feet tall and just die. And I don't know if that is a death gene that's in the hemp plant or what happened, because we would actually go and dig up around the plant to make sure that the emitter was working, that, you know, they didn't die because of lack of water, or, you know, pull them up and look at the roots and see if there was any disease. That was just a weird occurrence. And I saw it a lot across the farms I was in. Just every now and then you just find this one dead plant. I did notice a difference between white plastic and black plastic. Hemp seemed to perform better on the white plastic than it did on the black plastic this year. And I think that's just because it kept the ground cooler when it got really hot this summer, whereas the black would absorb the heat, whereas the white would reflect it. And in my travels, North Carolina only plants on white plastic, and I think that's probably going to be where we want to go in Missouri, is on the white plastic. Topping. I saw some fields that were topped, and we ran into a lot of plants splitting. These were, I mean, just very vigorous plants, and they were huge, and they were just full of flower. And we would get a small wind come through, and they would just split down to the ground. And then I would visit other farms that had not topped anything, and the plants just looked outstanding, you know, 5, 6 feet tall and just full of flower and very sturdy. So some of the research that I've been reading, you can't really seem to improve production by topping. And so that's one of the areas that we probably want to look at more this year is just do some side-by-sides between topping and not topping, and the amount of biomass that we can get out of them. Some other areas we're looking at, we want to do some livestock feeding trials, because I feel it would be very beneficial for our livestock producers to be able to add this into the rations. And I really see, you know, the dairy industry being somebody that could take huge advantage of feeding hemp to dairy cows, because if that would transfer into milk and butter and ice cream and cheese, all those products that could have hemp added to it just by going through the food route. Murray State did some research with laying hens. They fed them 50% hemp hearts and increased the omega-3s and 6s by 50% in the eggs by just feeding hemp. We also want to look at some different things besides just the CBD, the fiber, and the seed. One of the people I've gotten to work with some is a gentleman in New York that has a different extraction process of taking low quality hemp and running grapeseed oil, olive oil, what through this to basically use that as a solvent to come up with a product that could be turned into salad dressings or additives to soups and stews. Just many different ideas that are out there right now that we're going to be looking at this coming year and researching. And we do have some product from this gentleman in New York to look at it and analyze it to find out exactly what's in it. And that's some of the things that we're going to be running through Dr. Babu's new lab, is just being able to analyze a lot of this stuff and see where we're at, so that we can start putting together some, you know, recipes or value-added products that our farmers could make more money on. Gosh, I'm kind of rambling here, but trying to cover all the things that I think would be pertinent and important to people that are growing hemp or considering hemp. When I was sampling, I wouldn't let a farmer, we wouldn't sample a plot over 1 acre. And so I got into some 5-acre plots and all that. And my reasoning behind that is if you sample the entire plot, it could go hot. But if you sample 5 1-acre plots, your chances of maybe salvaging 4 out of 5 or 3 out of 5 increases. Most of the farms I was on this year did an outstanding job. They incorporated chicken litter, they planted on plastic, they irrigated. I got into some places that they didn't do fertilization or have irrigation in place, and they failed. And what was really sad was their crop didn't look very good and it all went hot. We really did see a difference in the plants this summer when we hit this really hot, dry spell. It seemed like the plants wanted to hurry up and mature. And I think that may be the reason the THC increased so much under that stress condition. And it may have been more that these plants were growing in these fields that didn't have the good irrigation to them. So just many things that I saw out there this year, I'm really encouraged with how great the crop looked in so many places. And I think most of the people that I worked with are doing their own value adding. They're creating their own companies to find a processor to distill it, make their salves, their tinctures, their ointments, or add into different products that they're growing. I work with one farmer that's an elderberry grower, and he's infusing his hemp into his elderberry product. So it's not going to be the commodity crop like you think of with corn or soybeans and you just haul it to the elevator and get paid. This is going to have to be more thinking along the lines of vertical integration and getting more of a retail price out of it instead of hoping to, take several tons of biomass to somebody and sell it and get paid. The processors are very leery right now because so much product out there from a year ago was hot, and it's so expensive to remove the THC out of it that they don't want it. And so there's a lot of crude oil sitting out there that needs the THC out of it, but nobody wants to touch it. So I know that Kentucky planted a lot less acres because a year ago they had over 30% of their crop go hot. Colorado did not have a good crop this year because the snowstorm came in and just took care of their crop from their blizzards that they had this fall. So yeah, acreages are down, but prices are stabilizing. Actually, prices have increased some. The last I checked, a kilo of CBD was at $1,200, which is better than the $800 it got down to, but not near where the $4,500 was a couple of years ago. So I think we've kind of gone over the top of the hype curve and we're coming back to a stabilized market. We just need a lot more research and understanding of this crop and how to grow it. Genetics is the biggest problem that we deal with right now. Stable genetics, consistent genetics. When we go out and we buy a bag of seed corn and we plant that, we expect all the plants to look alike, but we go out and buy clones. They should pretty much look alike, but when we come back for seeds, we've got everything all over the board. So being able to come up with a breeding program to stabilize the genetics is going to be huge for this industry. Trish, I think that's about all I have. If we have some questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
We don't have any, David, in the chat yet, but I found one of your comments to be really interesting. So it has been crossing my mind over the last couple of days. Your recommendation as a sampler then would be that if you're gonna have different lots through the state of Missouri regulation system, you should have smaller lots because there's less risk involved in having a 1 acre lot that might accidentally test hot than it would be a risk if you had 5 acres planted. There was one sample, one representative sample from the whole 5 acres, and that made and that made the whole crop be labeled hot. Does that sound, am I paraphrasing it correctly? Am I saying that right?
Yes, you're absolutely right, because if you do 30 samples in 5 acres and it comes back hot, you lose the entire 5 acres.
Right.
But if you do 1 acre samples of 6 samples to a lot, and only one of them comes back hot, the other 4 are good. So you don't lose the entire crop. Because, you know, as we travel across a field, the soil profile changes. You know, maybe one side is, you know, it's up on a clay knob and it doesn't perform as well. Maybe that area might go hot, or, you know, I don't know why. But
Well,
just,
it does.
I want people to lessen the risk.
Yeah. And you and I both agree that what the important thing about going into a hemp crop is to knowing the risk before you start growing, because it can be an expensive crop. The licensing is expensive, the seed is expensive, the plants are expensive, and to lose that crop, you know, to something other than a controllable situation can be difficult for a producer. And if I understand, and Alan may, or Aaron Casey, who's also on the call, may want to chime in here, but it doesn't cost extra under a license to have multiple lots attached to that license. You don't have to have a separate license for each different lot.
No, you just have that lot, and you can divide it up into smaller parcels.
Right.
Some of the farmers I worked with planted multiple varieties. And so, you know, they may have had 1,000 plants here, 1,500 plants there, whatever. They were doing their own variety trials. And so it was in that one plot, but they had different varieties within that plot. And they had it broke out, you know, like plot 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D is how we would label it when I came through and sampled for things. Insurance, that may be something that's of interest to people. NAP, which is non-agricultural products, it's revenue. That is available for hemp, but it does not cover going hot. It's only for, you know, hail, drought, wind, those sort of things. That would be normal natural occurrences, but that is available for our hemp growers as insurance.
Okay, I'm gonna, okay, NAP stands for, because it was a non-insured crop disaster assistance. And that's
Yes.
what NAP stands for, non-insured assistance program through the United States Department of Agriculture, which back in my USDA days, they were always trying to find what we call parameters and benchmarks for the NAP program. Lance had a question for us, and that is, and it's really, I think, a question for the state hemp program. Is there a need for more samplers? For more certified samplers? Do you remember, David, when you took the training, how many participated?
In the training I was in was the only one that was done in person, and there was like 38 of us. And I think there's somewhere around 50 samplers in the state right now, because you could take it online afterwards. So as I know, I was fairly busy, but I also know some people that never did any sampling. They never got a call. So, you know, you're an independent. And just the word of mouth of people that referred me to other people. You get into with some of these farmers, and they'll just share your information with other places, but there's no guarantee that you would ever sample any hemp, and you know it could turn into a good livelihood too. So it's
okay.
You know, I can't answer that.
Questioning. We have a wild question for you. How much do you normally charge? And you can ballpark it. You can be subtle about it if you choose to.
Okay. Alan's comment is 2020, we certified 80 people through the Certified Industrial Sampler
Right.
program.
Okay.
My goal is to help farmers. And so I have varied off of my prices at different times. I had one guy, I went and sampled for him 3 different times, and I didn't feel like charging him the regular amount.
I gotcha.
And my basic fee was $150, and that got you 3 samples.
I gotcha. Do you charge for
And-
mileage as well?
No, I didn't charge for
Okay.
mileage. And
Okay.
and if every sample over 3 was another $25.
Okay. Alan also says the certification program is open year-round for folks who are interested. And Mindy asks, where would a farmer find a list of samples? Well, there you go. Alan is way ahead of this game. The certified sampler list is right there at the bottom of this webpage, and I will save it. I will save the chat and put it in tomorrow's newsletter, just so we know, so that those links that we're sharing are in there. A little bit about your law enforcement training.
Okay.
Did you just get started on that?
Yeah, we did one earlier in the year before I had the continuing education, and we just finished up one. I think it was December for Jefferson County Sheriff's Department, and I didn't, with the coming holiday season and shutdown and everything, I haven't really scheduled anymore, but I have been talking to a couple other sheriffs that are interested in it.
I would imagine you've got a little time on that. That they're
Yeah.
not, yeah, in other words, they might have a little quiet time when they can do the training, but they also might want to get closer to where the, to where it's getting to where that crop is starting to move a little bit. What kind of things do you share with them?
We do a presentation on the history of hemp, agronomics. This is how for flower is grown. This is for fiber. This is for seed. What to look for, and the main thing that I like for them to see is for Alan to come in and go over the rules and regulations, because that's how they operate. They need to have the rules and regulations understood. Some of them request, well, teach us more about marijuana and how it's related to hemp, and it's like I can't go there. That's out of my wheelhouse at this time. But it's some places they've made it mandatory for several of their officers to come to it. The drug enforcement teams, the patrol officers, they've had all them show up at the trainings because these are the guys on the front line.
I think you and I may have talked last week about a field test. And I actually had the opportunity to talk to somebody who works in a lab who says the trouble with the field test is it tests for cannabinoids, which all that determines for a law enforcement agent is that it is, hemp or marijuana. Can you talk a little bit about that? Do you know much about those?
There's no quick test to understand if it's 0.3 or more.
Correct.
You have to go through a lab because it's fine. Now, one thing I have read is that Senator Rand Paul has talked about increasing the level to 1% of THC. I know that, when we looked at states like Tennessee that were at 1 and people grew it and their crop was over the 0.3 and then processors wouldn't touch it because that's the federal rule. And trying to get their crop processed has been pretty difficult for them.
What other questions do we have? And this was actually, David, I appreciate it very much. It was very, very informative, and you know, you don't have to PowerPoint people to death to share good information. So we appreciate it, even if you're sitting on the beach in Cancun, which you obviously are. Folks, we'll open this up to any other questions. I sincerely appreciate Lincoln University sharing their knowledge with us. And of course, we're all on the same team. We all want to see a safe, profitable crop. And we want agriculture in Missouri to thrive by whatever means necessary. I'm all about diversifying for farmers because we want to keep people on the farm, and we want them to be able to afford to stay on the farm, right? That's our whole goal. Anybody else have anything else? I'll leave it for a couple minutes longer. Tomorrow, we've got Justin Kay from the University of Missouri. He's going to talk about CBD and some agronomics. And then we'll also have Ray Massey from the University of Missouri Ag Business. He's going to talk about crop budgets. So that'll be exciting. And I thank everybody for participating today. Anybody want to make any last comments?
There was a couple questions. One was our feeding trials. We probably will go with chickens because it's easy to analyze eggs, and probably it will be ruminants, whether sheep and
We're going to give David a minute here because he kind of froze up, but I'm sure he'll be back in a second. So when do you anticipate feed trials starting? Will it be specific species, sheep, cattle, and hogs? And Lance says, did you see an area production or processing that needs to be expanded in Missouri to help meet demands? And David, do you want to just